Bobby Gaines here to make a different kind of rant. As some of you may know, and some of you who know me definitely know this, I was a proud owner of a Pontiac Grand Am for about 6 years, from 2008 to 2014. And even before my accident happened, even before I lost the Pontiac, I was always just puzzled as to why GM discontinued the Pontiac brand, and I still am. And it kind of goes back to some other things of mine that are no longer being made, but it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a blow to me. I know it's a blow to some car fans. It's a blow to, obviously, Pontiac, the Pontiac brand, the Pontiac fan base. And GM kind of holds the cards on this. I mean, they discontinued the brand in 2010. They have no intentions to pick it up, as far as I can tell. And I'm not even saying they necessarily have to, but it would be great to see Pontiac live on as maybe some other company picks it up, or maybe, I don't know. I really don't know how that works with car brands and models and makes and all that. All I know is that I owned a Pontiac for 6 years, and despite some of the warnings, despite some of the things that people do say about Pontiacs, maybe some of those things are true, I had very few problems with my Pontiac. The gas mileage was pretty great, actually. That was one thing I was like, I had a Chrysler before that, didn't get great gas mileage, and, another American-made car. I figured Pontiac also had a V6 engine. Some of their models had a V8 engine. So again, I mean, gas mileage may vary per person, by the way you drive, by where you drive, how you use your gas, whatever. But all things considered, no complaints. And that was a 2005 Pontiac, and I felt like it had features that even some of today's cars don't have. Like my car right now is a 2012, and it doesn't have auto lights. I have to turn the little headlights on. I know it's not that big a deal, but my 2005 Pontiac, had its own personality to it, as most Pontiacs did. The red interior lights, the Pontiac logo, the just kind of simple touches, but it was something, And I know there are other cars, and there will continue to be other American-produced cars and cars all over the world that will have the same notoriety, and I think it's a shame that Pontiac won't be among them going forward. And even today, on GM's website, on Pontiac's website still exists, and they make the cars still look so glorious. Even the 2010 G6 looks like something new. I mean, their cars continue to look modern even as they discontinued them. And, it wasn't all hits, obviously. The Pontiac Aztek, the Pontiac Vibe, Pontiac Montana, some of the Pontiac Bonnevilles were nothing much to look at. Even some of the Grand Prix, I like the newer ones, but again, it's just personal preference. And that's what made Pontiac so great, is that they did have a lot of great cars, a lot of great types of cars. They were built, I like to think they were built for like an average guy like me. And I know, Chevy's kind of known for that too, but I don't know, like Pontiac had like this sports car feel to it without actually being a sports car, without being a super expensive car, but it looked nice, it ran great. Most people couldn't really tell, but if you were a Pontiac enthusiast, you really loved owning a Pontiac. That was pretty much the whole appeal to it. The Trans Am, the Grand Am, the Firebird, the GTO, the Grand Prix, this like, I don't, maybe I am like, the generic fast food consumer that Pontiac pandered towards, but I love my Pontiac. I will always love my Pontiac. I mean, even the name Pontiac and just the GM, how it was known for such a long time. I mean, Pontiac had been around since 1929, along with the original GM products, Chevrolet and Buick, all of those coming about at the same time. And so, I mean, obviously, companies have been downsizing, not just GM. A lot of companies have been downsizing. Products have been going out of business. But, that Pontiac was kind of just cut when it was really, in my opinion, peaking. And maybe I'm wrong about this. Obviously, the sales numbers must have said something else for GM to make that decision. And, I hear GM and Chevy kind of like took sales away from each other. And, I'm not going to bash Chevy. I'm not going to bash Buick. I'm not going to bash any of the other GM products or even American products, and it's a shame. That's all I'm going to say, because Pontiac made some really nice cars, and they looked more expensive than they were, as bad as that sounds. Like they had a certain quality to them, and yes, there were issues with them, usually electric. I had some issues with my brakes. I had a couple things. I had to replace the brakes a couple times. Also, the plastic on the interior kind of chintzy at times, but again, like it was nothing major, and those engines lasted like 200, 300,000 miles. I shudder to think how long mine might have lasted if I hadn't, been in the accident last year. So, I mean, my Pontiac had 150,000 miles on it, still ran great, never had any engine problem or transmission or anything like that, just minor issues here and there. And I'm not saying other cars don't run well for the life of the car. Some people probably got a Pontiac and it broke down on them in the first month. I mean, again, it's just luck of the draw. But I really feel strongly about this. I really think GM should bring back the Pontiac. And if they're not willing to, I think they should sell it to Chrysler or Dodge or someone who does want to revitalize the brand. Because it's such a great brand. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe just because I owned one. But even before I owned one, you know, just the name Pontiac and the logo, everything it embodies. I mean, to me, it was just such a well-known car for so long. I have friends that still don't know that they discontinued it just because they're not big car people. You know, after my accident, some friends were like, oh, why don't you get another Pontiac? I'm like, I can't unless I get an older one because they stopped making them. So my friends were like, really? They stopped making the Pontiac? Like, you still see them everywhere. I don't know about you guys. I live in the Northeast in Connecticut. I see a lot of Pontiacs. I mean, they're obviously old. I see the SUVs, the trucks, the cars. I see a lot of Pontiacs. I even see a lot of Oldsmobiles, and that was discontinued in '04. So, case in point, the Pontiac brand will live on past its actual discontinuation. I guess in one way, I mean, I want them to bring back Pontiac, but I want them to do it right. I'd hate to see them just kind of slap a Pontiac logo on a Chevy. I know they used to do that. And I'd hate to see them just kind of like rebrand Pontiac and just make like a cheap looking one. So, I mean, in that way, maybe it's good that Pontiac went out at its best because there were some issues over the years, but I guess just because it was such an amazing finale for Pontiac with the G6 and the G8 and some of the other cars they made toward the end of their run, it makes you really wonder what could have been if GM stuck with it. But again, that's all it is right now, speculation. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, bring back Pontiac, keep it out of business. I don't know. Obviously, you know where I come down on the issue, but yeah, peace out, fellow Pontiac drivers.